Success shouldn't feel this exhausting. If you're winning on paper, but burning out behind the scenes, you aren't failing. You're stuck in a psychological bottleneck called a hurdle of stop. I've been there. On the outside, things look great, but I was secretly burning out, convinced I was just lucky and waiting to be exposed as a fraud. I realized I didn't have a business problem. I had a mindset block. Whether it's imposter syndrome, perfectionism, or fear or failure, these aren't just feelings. They are growth bottlenecks. Identify your specific hurdle and get one immediate action step to regain your momentum today. Go to tuepodcast.net/quiz. That's tuepodcast.net/quiz to take the 3-minute assessment and get your report now. This is an Undiscovered Legacy production and proud member of Pod Nation Media Network. All right, Scoop Believers, let's get across the start line with today's entrepreneur, Albert deMontes, a talent scout from New York City. Let's go! Are you ready to unlock your entrepreneur potential? Are you ready to break free from all the barriers holding you back? Then you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Undiscovered Entrepreneur, your first step in getting across the start line. Let's get across that start line together, right here, right now, on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur.
Someday doesn't exist. It's not on the calendar. So what is your reality? Start taking action today. What actions can you take? And even if it's jotting down some ideas, taking, as an actor, go back into acting class, go shoot some scenes on your phone and practice, doing a couple monologues on your phone, or as a business owner, going to some networking events.
Salutations, Scoop Believers, and we're here again with another amazing entrepreneur. Today we're here with Albert. Hey, Albert, how are you?
I'm great, Jeff. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for taking your time out of your day to be on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur and get across the start line. We super appreciate you.
I'm so happy to be here.
All right. So before we go any further, I have a semi-serious question to ask you. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you a Scoop Believer?
I sure am.
All right. Thanks, Albert. Thanks for being a Scoop Believer. Super appreciate you. All right. So right here front, what I'd like to do here is get an idea of who you are, what your entrepreneur adventure is, and what it was like for you to get across the start line in your entrepreneur adventure.
Sure. Thank you. I'm a talent agent, so I represent actors. I've had my own company. I've had a couple of different companies, but I've always worked on my own in this space and in the talent representation space in the New York area. So my journey was a bit unconventional. When I say that, I meant most people who start, at least in my space, start off working for somebody else, maybe being a junior agent or even an assistant, and then move up the ranks and then eventually start their own company. I just went for it. I started my own company. I didn't do any of the other steps initially. I didn't work for anybody else, at least in this capacity, in this type of work. So I've always owned my own companies.
All right, what was that like for you? Because you went the unconventional route there. You just went for it. What was that like?
It's jumping right in a fire. And it's like, there was a lot of challenges in the beginning. That I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was great, and that would be dishonest and disingenuous if I told you that it was a wonderful linear journey. It wasn't. And a lot of lessons I've learned along the way. Plus, the industry that I'm in is, again, unconventional, not the typical entrepreneur that you may talk to. So show business is a very exciting but incredibly tough industry, no matter which way you cut it. It's overly competitive, it's overly saturated, and everyone's vying to get famous or become the best, having the best clients out there. It can be a bit cutthroat, which is something I wasn't prepared for. And I was young, naive, at the time, when I was video, I thought, oh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be so easy. It wasn't. It a lot of competition, a lot of that can happen that I wasn't used to, that I wasn't really at that time prepared for. I think just what I said earlier, if I went the traditional route, I might have been more prepared for and been more equipped to handle initially in the beginning. So I've always been the type that I'm going to do it myself. And yeah, I think it's for me, I would consider both a strength and maybe a fault to some level. And maybe I should have asked for help, or maybe I should have done the conventional route by working for somebody for 2 or 3 years and then start my own company, because at least I'll see how it's done and I can learn systems. I was just doing everything blind. So yes, I did make mistakes. I did make a lot of mistakes. But I also feel at the same time, they helped me become where I am today by embracing those mistakes rather than focusing on and dwelling and regretting on them, because past is the past and everyone has to learn. And that includes, failure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing that you just jumped in it and just learned from the mistakes instead of learning from somebody else first. And that puts you where you are now. I mean, you wouldn't be where you are now. You'd be somewhere else for sure if you didn't
Yeah.
just do it that way. Everybody has an adventure, they do it their way.
Mm-hmm.
And you did it, you definitely did it your way. And I kind of did it the same way too with mine, with my podcast. I didn't take any classes, I didn't do anything. I just taught myself the whole way through. Maybe watch a couple of YouTube videos, but that was about it, really. Yeah, it's great to be able to do something like that for yourself because you really get into the thick of it.
Mm-hmm. I sure did. And it was like jumping into the ocean without reading any news reports or anything. Okay, I'm going right in. And that's exactly what I did. And it was, again, like I said, there were some hiccups in the beginning, as with any entrepreneur. So the one thing I would definitely say, which I would highly recommend to anybody who's working a business, perseverance. You need that. And that includes resilience and grit, and that means not backing down easily and not giving up after you make your mistake. Because I had well-intentioned people in my life, my family, my friends saying, after the first year, saying maybe this is not going to work out, and you should pack it in. And looking back, they weren't wrong, because the mistakes things that were happening would have made everyone understand if I just said this isn't for me. I'm glad I didn't, obviously. Otherwise, I'd be working for somebody else, which I'm not to toot my own horn here. I'm definitely very loyal and I do work well with people, but I'm not the type of person that likes to work under somebody else or for somebody else. I can tell you that about me from the get-go. So yeah, being an employee was not exactly something I wanted to do.
Doesn't quite fit what you're really wanting to do there. You kind of have to work for yourself for something like what you're doing now, for sure.
Yes, it's simple because there's several reasons: the autonomy, the freedom to do what I want. If I'm working for somebody else, I would have to conform to the mission of their company. I'd have to their agency, to their workflow. And even because I've talked to other people who work for agencies, there are agents in other agencies, and they say that a lot of their decisions are not theirs. That even like the type of client they want to sign, like if I wanted to sign an actor. Now, obviously, being my own company, I could sign whoever I darn well please. But if I worked for somebody else, I'd have to get approval, and they could say no. Or
Right.
if it comes time to every agent, what they do at the end of every 6 months to a year is we go through our client list and say, okay, who do we like release from the agency? Which actors are not aren't the best fit anymore? If I work for somebody else, other people are making decisions for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I defend that. Like I could really want to have an actor still on my roster. The higher ups could say no, and I wouldn't have a like to stand on. So it was just like I wanted to do things my way. Now, yes, I mean the what I was saying earlier, the advantage of maybe working with somebody else, they may have a more proven system that might have been more an easier path for me to learn, like to look at a proven system of the way things are done. I didn't have that. Again, I was just winging it for the first few years. I was like, okay. And then I just really, even to this day, 21 years later, I'm doing what works, like for me. And I can only speak from my own experience when I say how things should be done. I can only say this is what works for me. And it may not work for somebody else. So that's the only advantage of I would say, not getting that foundation is maybe some of the errors that I encountered might have been avoidable. Who knows? But I also at the same time I'm not going to be like, oh well, this could have been or this could have been, because it's over. It's a past. I could only say, what can I learn from this? That's the whole thing about failure. I think one of the important lessons I've learned about failure is not to feel sorry for ourselves or not to dwell in it or wallow in it. But what can we learn from this? What lessons did it teach us? Lessons do our mistakes teach us. And I think as entrepreneurs, that's one thing that we can really embrace is our mistakes, our failures, and say, okay, these opportunities now to learn.
Yeah,
Which is more powerful than learning from a textbook or a course. I think is this actually, okay, this didn't work. Okay, this approach doesn't work. Now I need to try something different.
well, it kind of teaches us what not to do, right?
Yeah,
I mean, let's not do the same mistake twice. When we come across that same instance again, let's treat it differently because we know how to do it because we've learned from our mistake. That's really how it works.
absolutely, 100%. And that's the only way we learn is by making those mistakes. The same thing we're going to go even on a more psychological side. If any listeners are parents, sometimes the best lessons for the children to learn is to make their own mistakes. And of course, we don't want that to happen, but that can be the best classroom is in mistakes.
Exactly. That's awesome. I love that. So you said you had a couple business before you did this. So I'm kind of curious about what led you to what you're doing now? Because right now you're a talent scout, I guess would be, or a talent agent. Yeah.
Yeah. When I say a couple businesses, they're always talent agents. Now,
Okay.
what happened in my journey from 2004 to 2020, it was just me. I had my own company. And during the pandemic, I had merged with another agent at this time to create a partnership, a merger. So that was from, I would say, December 2020 to December 20. So exactly 3 years, December 2023. Now, for me, it didn't work out. It wasn't a harmonious partnership, I can say. Great experience, but it was time to move on. It was time for a change. So in January 1st, 2024, I started with Montes Artists, which is now where I'm at now. So I've always had my own company, and there were always talent agencies, but it was just under different names and branding. So I was on my own for about 16 years, and then I merged for 3 years, and then now back for a year and a half, almost 2 years now. I'm back on my own. So that's where I was at. Now, what made my decision was this is completely by accident. If you told me when I was in high school or college that I'd be working in show business, I would have laughed. I would have said, this is absurd. You're ridiculous. I had really I had some interest, but not a whole lot. I was in a drama club in high school. I took some acting classes in college as electives, but I was bent on becoming a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. That was really my goal for several years. And I did when I was going for my master's degree, when I was finishing my master's degree, I did an internship at a New York talk show. So, again, unconventional internship for a psychology grad student. However, this talk show had a mediation unit afterwards, an aftercare unit, which helped calm down the guests that they were fighting and killing each other on stage. What can we do? Let's get them to calm down afterwards and maybe get them the help they need in their home state. So that's what the department I worked in as an intern. So I was doing psychology and counseling, but just in a very unconventional background. That sets the seed for my my career in the entertainment industry. Although I will tell you this, I'd never want to go near talk TV ever from that experience. It was a lot different from what I thought it was.
Mhm.
The reality of it, huge wake up call there. So, but afterwards, this is right around the time 9/11 happened, and I'm in New York, near the New York area. So I started volunteering. I started working, helping with some people who I met at this talk show, to create an organization that provided counseling, crisis intervention, and advocacy services to fallen rescue workers and their families. Again, nothing related to acting, but I started working with a lot of SAG actors, with people that were somewhat not, I wouldn't say A-list celebrities, but people that were in the Sopranos and Sex and the City, who had nice sized roles. So, and they were, oh, you should go into acting. You have a great look. And so I tried it. I said, well, I did take some acting classes. I was in drama. Maybe there's something to it. There wasn't. I love being around actors. Even when I was meeting actors on set, if I was working on a short film or I did a little extra work here and there, I was finding actors I was making friends with. And then when I was looking for acting jobs, I was cutting out notices and saying, here, this would be great for you. And a couple people had said, I wish you could be my agent. And so the wheels started turning. I love doing this. And for me, I think at the heart of it, I'm a connector.
Mhm.
And I love connecting people. It's like pieces together a puzzle for me. And that is typically what an agent does. We connect the actors to their job. Introduce the actors to the right people, help facilitate an introduction. So I get to be a people connector for business. And that, I think, is the heart of why I'm went on this journey. Is I'm a connector.
What a fantastic story, because you really started from left field, from not even anywhere close to what you're doing, and the path was put out in front of you to be what you are now. I mean, if you really think about it, because you really didn't start out as in the acting space until you started getting out there, and then had the opportunity, which led to this opportunity, which led to your zone of genius, which is being a connector. And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. I look back and everything worked out in place. That I think is where I'm at today. And I still received a PhD. I still did all that while I was working and building a company. And that even led to my area of expertise now, because my doctoral dissertation was on self-sabotage in actors.
Mm.
And so that led me to really studying imposter syndrome and how, and in my work, even though I focus more on actors, what I feel this can apply to anybody. It's about entrepreneurs, peak high achievers, and peak performers. We all deal with self-doubt and self-sabotage.
Can you give me a little bit more insight on what you think imposter syndrome is and how that works out in our head? Because it sounds like you deal with that a lot, or you've
Yes,
dealt with it a lot.
both, I can say this personally and with others. The textbook definition, of course, imposter syndrome, I think it's more than that. I think there's more layers to it. And I may have the minority opinion here, but I believe that one of the that imposter syndrome can actually work for us, because it can help us keeps us humble in a sense. And it helps us to become more trained or more skilled in areas that maybe we're not proficient in. And so if you really feel like you're not being productive, so like imposter syndrome would be like, well, who's going to take me seriously as an agent? Who's going to really take me seriously as an author? Nobody's going to want to read my book. No actor's going to really want to work with me. And so the important thing to work through it, I don't think there's any way we're going to get rid of it completely, because that does work for us. So I think what we can do is learn to manage it and to let it work in our favor. So managing it would be start taking credit for the success we have. So a lot of people have, especially in my area, our actors have the stereotype of being self-centered, and some are, I'm not going to lie. But a lot of times also actors fall under they don't take credit either for things, successes that they have. And I think a lot of us do that too, because we don't want to appear to be arrogant or conceited. So we'll downplay our successes. Unfortunately, will lead to a feeling that you're not trained enough, you're not competent enough. So the one thing I would say is definitely celebrate the education, the training you have. Again, I have the real world experience, so I can credit that to myself. However, I also feel just because I have 21 years that I'm not omnipotent or all knowing. I'm definitely not a full on, I know everything. I don't. I'm always learning. And I've always had mindset my entire life is you always have to be learning. And I think even as an entrepreneur, we should always be investing in self improvement of some level and leveling up in any way possible. And that's where I think the imposter syndrome can be your friend a bit because it can help us. Okay, what is something I'm deficient in? Okay, is it maybe going live on social media? Is it creating videos, creating content? Is it social media marketing, tech skills? Okay, so what can I do to learn from that? Where can I learn? And I don't become weak. I actually learn that. So I think the important thing with an imposter syndrome, it keeps us humble, but it also can help us, adopt the humility and know when we don't know something.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know for a fact because I do have a few actor friends, and one thing they're all good at is deflection.
Yes.
So when it comes to somebody giving them a compliment or hey, I really liked you this film, they kind of like, oh, I'm doing my job or I'm doing my best or whatever.
Right. Or it's like, I got the role, but I think they gave it to me because they like me. Or I hear that a lot, or they felt sorry for me. So I think that's why they gave me the role. I'm like, no, it's not like that. And so I think because part of that is not giving into that mass knowing that actors are self-centered and arrogant. And they're trying really hard to do that. Plus, it really depends on their upbringing too. Again, I'm going to wear my psychology hat for a second. If you grew up in a family that put you down or always had something critical to say, you start adopting that inner voice that will create this doubt or delete the important things that you've done or distort them in a sense. So that's where I think the whole thing is we need to take credit. Like, yes, you worked hard. Yeah, you're trained. You are a good actor. There's nothing wrong with saying that I'm a good actor. There's a difference between saying I'm a good actor to I'm the best actor in the room. There's a big difference there. But I think we all need to pat ourselves on the back from at least from time to time because we worked hard for it.
Yeah, and you don't want to negate that positivity that somebody's bringing towards you by deflecting it away, like you don't deserve it or something like that. You want to take it within yourself. Thank you very much for telling me. I really appreciate that. And that's something a little more positive than "oh, I was okay" or something like that.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for that. I worked hard for it.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
When you start, and this is where I talk about the language you use, because then we start to then believe it internally, not just externally. It then becomes an internal strength, and therefore that will mitigate a little bit of that imposter syndrome by taking credit for your successes.
Yeah, another thing is if you're not feeling some sort of imposter syndrome, you're not working hard enough. I mean,
100%. Yeah, and that's true. Just when I talk about people, actors, if they have nerves before auditions or speakers before they go up and speak on the stage, if you're not feeling nervous, something's not right. Now, what we can do is reframe that nervousness to excitement, to joy. You actually enjoying what you're doing, and therefore your adrenaline is a little up because you're so excited to go on stage. Same principle, just a different way of looking at it. And the same thing with imposter syndrome. Look, you're just being humble. And if we look at it like being just humility, like, okay, I don't know everything. I can always learn something new. I can always go for more training. And as actors, the important thing is to keep training, no matter what level you're at. Even the A-listers go for training regularly. They have their own coaches. They're constantly practicing. If even look like a pro athlete, what are they doing? They're practicing both off season and on season. I was reading an interview from Michael Jordan who said that every day, whether he was playing or not, he would always shoot 5,000 hoops because it's important to stay grounded. And I think that's where the imposter syndrome can be our friend by keeping us to make sure that we're always learning and always practicing and always working on ourselves.
Exactly. That's a great point. I love that. Thank you so much. And also, being in the movie genre that you're in and running across a lot of actors, I'm sure you come across perfectionism quite often.
Yes. This also is not just with actors, but even with entrepreneurs, is perfectionism. Now, the problem with perfectionism is then it also relates to procrastination. Because it's like, I need this to be perfect. I'm not going to audition until I have all these skills necessary. Or I'm not going to do this type of work unless I take more classes or need more training. I need more of this and that. And you just never start. You sit there and in a cycle of, I need more. I need more. I need more. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. It has to be perfect. And even when I wrote my book as a first-time author, I was running into this problem several times. I would sit in front of a blank page, write a couple of paragraphs, read the paragraphs, be so upset with it, delete, put it in a recycling bin, a trash bin, and I was starting over. And this happened for several years until one of my mentors, who published 15 books of his own, said, just write and then self-edit later. And because I kept saying, well, no one's going to like my book. Everyone's trashing it. And my coach, being the no-nonsense person he was, said, well, you're not going to know that if you don't write it. I was like, if I don't write a book, I'm not going to have the opportunity for people to trash it, if that was the case. And he was laughing, but it was true. So the important thing is, and this is true, and this is not just a cliche quote, it's better to do something imperfect than to do nothing at all. So just do it. You're going to make mistakes. That's the cycle of life. And definitely being a business owner or an actor, you're going to make mistakes. Inevitable. But embrace it. And the only way you're going to get to closer to perfect, because there's no such thing as perfection, is by making those mistakes. And so it's better to take action, imperfect action, is what I would say. Because if you keep it in perfection, you start procrastinating, and then therefore you get nothing done. How's that book there? How's that project? And that was what was going on for me for almost 6 years. How's the book coming? It's coming along. Until I adopted the imperfect action mindset, it never would have done. I could have been sitting here in 2025 saying, I'm going to someday write a book. And never would have been done.
Well, definitely imperfect action is better than no action at all. That's really what that boils down to, because we hide behind perfectionism. That's really, like you said earlier, and it makes a great point.
Someday doesn't exist. It's not on the calendar. So what is your reality? Start taking action today. What actions can you take? And even if it's jotting down some ideas, taking, as an actor, go back into acting class, go shoot some scenes on your phone and practice doing a couple monologues on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is so important for growth. And as entrepreneurs, as actors, as public speakers. I had one of my trainers initially when I was studying NLP. One of my trainers was a public speaking coach, and He would do these 2-day or 3-day seminars in New York City on improving your public speaking skills. The morning of the first day, everyone had to go out to a mall or in public and do something completely outrageous, act a fool. And the people that participated and did this felt so comfortable by the afternoon of the first day. Because if you can do that out in public and make a fool out of yourself, public speaking is easy now. And that was the whole point. The idea behind that assignment was, well, you did that and you survived. So one thing that really I've always done, this is prior to really 2020, but I used to host in New York City with my clients mainly, or karaoke nights, because I felt like karaoke is a great way to step outside your comfort zone and a great way to face your fears, especially, is to just do it. I always come to believe that sometimes the best way to face your fears is to rip the Band-Aid off. Get out there. And karaoke, and I've even heard other trainers say this too, that karaoke can be a great activity for even aspiring speakers or presenters, because again, it's acting silly in a sense, playful, but really putting you in a lair, if you think about it.
That's probably why I want to be a public speaker, is because I spent years singing karaoke. Love doing it. So makes sense.
And then it just becomes so easy to speak in front of people. It's okay. I could belt, even though I can't sing, I can belt in front of other people. You feel really good afterwards. And even a story that happened to me, I was in New York City on a Saturday, and I had a large gap between events, and I didn't want to go back home to New Jersey. In between, so I was like, what can I do? And I saw a karaoke meetup. Great. I'll go to this. I didn't read the fine print, though. Everyone must sing. And must sing 2 songs. So I went to this, it was a mini room. So it wasn't like a full-on karaoke bar. It was a mini room, a room for 10 or 12 people. And we're all sitting around this large table, circular table. And everyone was passing the mic around. So I'm just sitting there watching. I just got there, and I happened to get there maybe 2 songs ahead of me. So they pointed the mic, and I said, okay, Albert, what do you want to sing? And I just went, and I had to do it. I was in the group description, and I was sober. I didn't drink anything yet. I was like, okay, let's go for it. Now, I want to tell you one thing. Doing karaoke in a bar is easy because you don't hear yourself. Doing karaoke in a room with glass, oh, you heard yourself. And it was just, whoa, do I really sound like this? And what made it even more uncomfortable for me, everyone was so good. I wasn't. I was having fun, I could tell you that. And I didn't know anybody in that room. I walked out of there on cloud 9, feeling great. I don't know how the other experience was, if I tortured anybody else. I didn't care, but I felt great. So the important thing is, that's what I always say now. You want to raise your self-esteem, you want to raise your courage, do something scary. Do something that makes things scary at first. Because that's a great way to face your fear. And all fear is, really think of it as false evidence appearing real. Yeah.
I'm very happy you said it exactly that way, because that's exactly what I say all the time. It's in my podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I did not prompt Albert to say that, just so you know. That's very affirming for me, so thank you.
I've said this to another podcast. Seriously, I think that it's true, because a lot of times what we fear is not real. And it's, even if the worst case scenario happens, this idea fails or flops, the outcome is, and the reality of the outcome and our perception of the outcome is going to be so different. Okay, so what? So what if we fail? Okay, it's a learning experience. And none of one's going to judge you, because I'll give you another example. When I was ending my merger with other agency, I had to make an announcement on social media. I had to make an announcement to my clients that were currently in the agency that there's going to be a split. I was so worried and so fearful. I'm going to lose everybody. People are going to judge harshly and all of that. And for days, that kept me up at night. I laugh at that now because that never happened. Everyone was so supportive for both of us. Now, great, good luck. How can I help you? How can I support you? And there were, yeah, I did lose a few acting clients. Okay, that was going to happen when you split. That's we were going to stay with my former partner. Fine, that's going to happen. But I would say it was like I it wasn't even 1/10 of what I thought was going to happen. So that's why I say just go for it. Fear is just that. It's false. So just go for it. And it's kind of better to, and this is also another rule, to shoot first and apologize later, or just do the action first and apologize later if you have to. Because otherwise, you never know. And in my case, it was this, if I acted on that fear, I would never have known.
Yeah, for me personally too, I use fear kind of as a guide because a lot of times if you fear it, that means it's something you have to do. It's something that you have to get over because on the other side of that fear is going to be something great, whether it's a learning experience, whether it's meeting a goal, anything like that. It's always on the other side of that fear is something that's amazing for you.
Yeah, not only that, then I even started going through, okay, what's the worst case scenario? So let's say I made the announcement and everyone leaves me. Well, then there's so many other actors in New York City. There's hundreds of thousands of actors that I could build my roster back up again if that happened. And that would have been the end of the world for me. And that obviously never happened. So, but if I sat and been fearful of that, it would have did that. And even going back to my book, let's say I published and I did get a lot of 1-star reviews. I would have learned what to do the next time I wrote my second book when I write my second book. And B, we all know sometimes a little bit of negative marketing can help us a bit. And that's what some authors were also telling me that sometimes the negative reviews can actually boost the sales of the book. Because then now people want to say, okay, what's with this? So again, go for it. And one thing I often tell people is keep a journal of your fears. Write down today what you're scared of. And then 6 months to a year from now, pull out that journal. And I guarantee you're going to be laughing and saying, that was no big deal. Worked itself out. Just take action and small. It doesn't have to be like drastic right away. It's small steps. But the only way our lives are going to change, the only way our businesses are going to grow, the only way we're going to become successful is by implementing changes and doing things and taking action.
And doing it now.
Yes. Not tomorrow, not next year. And that also why I don't make New Year's resolutions anymore. Time you read on social media by December, obviously. New year, new me. Really? How many times are you going to say that? Because it's a cliche. People are going to wait till January 1st to do something different. Why not start today or even tomorrow morning, but today?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have to be on a Monday or the New Year. Just start today because that's procrastination. That's why most New Year's resolutions fail. Like 90%, or over 90% of New Year's resolutions fail because people false. It's a procrastination thing.
Exactly. That's amazing. Thank you, Albert. That's some fantastic information. I appreciate that a lot. So what I'd like to know here is, and I think we touched on it already, but I'm going to just hit it one more time. If you do come across a new entrepreneur, whether it be in your industry or any other industry, what advice would you give them? What steps would you have them take?
So I would say, number one, take action. Just start the business. Number two, network with other people in your industry. I think that's so important. Even if they're competitors, still, I think it's important to network with people because you can learn. You can build your base up. You build a referral base up. You never know. So networking with other people. Consume a lot of content. Listen to podcasts in your niche. Read books in your niche. Watch YouTube videos in your niche. Connect with influencers in your niche, whatever area that you're in. So that's where learning begins. And the support and the accountability. Just do it. The networking is so important because it's like the power of proximity. We hang out with other successful people. We're going to become more successful by default. Just like on the other hand, if we hang out with, there's a lot of negativity in our lives and people around us, we're going to become that negativity by default.
Well, we are the sum of the five people we hang around most. So if the five people that you hang around most are going to be negative, they're going to get into your head and they're going to make you think that you're not good enough, or they're going to feed on that imposter syndrome. Oh yeah, you're right. Even you're not smart enough for this or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
The world's unfair. This business idea is not going to work. There's too much competition. And therefore, it's like you don't even try. It's not my words, but I'll borrow from Tony Robbins about proximity. Proximity is power. So start hanging out with more successful people. Be around more successful people. This is why networking events is so important. Just to meet other people that are successful entrepreneurs and learn and consume their content and be a sponge for their knowledge so that it'll give you that accountability and it'll give you that inspiration and out in the systems to implement your business.
And there's so many places that we could go to be with people along those lines. There's the Chamber of Commerce. There's groups, networking events that you could go to, even Facebook groups of people. I mean, you don't even have to go anywhere. Just go to your phone, your computer, and look for people that are in your same niche that you could conversate with and learn from.
LinkedIn also has groups too. Facebook, LinkedIn, great. YouTube, we'll consume a lot of content on YouTube that will, and connect with these creators and these influencers that are in your space. Connect with them, and on social media. So you don't have to leave your home in a sense, and then also listen to other thought leaders in your field, and that's the best way that we're only going to grow in a sense.
Exactly. That's amazing. I love that. Thanks for bringing that, Albert. That's fantastic. So what I like to do here is I kind of have a tradition with all my guests. And then in the next 6 months, where do you see you and your company? Do you have a goal for yourself in the next 6 months?
Well, the goal for myself is, number one, just to keep thriving, two, and to get better. I always feel like I want to be have more scalability in the next 6 months. So I'd like to have much more high-profile bookings in my down business. As far as my personal, I'm working on a second book at this point. It's only in the planning stages, but in 6 months, I'd like to have it in the editor's hands to start editing. So that's where I see myself in 6 months, in a sense. So, and the only person anyone should be competing with is themselves, not anybody else, not worrying about what other people are doing. So I always say, like, be a better version of yourself in your business in 6 months than you were. Yeah, at this time. So
perfect. That leads right into the next thing I was going to say is what I'd like to do, Albert, if it's okay with you, is actually follow up with you in about 6 months.
Absolutely.
Have another podcast just like this and see how we're doing, see how the book's going too. I'd love to hear about that.
I would love to, definitely.
All right, Albert. Okay, this is your time to shine, Albert. This is the time I want you to advertise yourself. How do we get a hold of you and all that good stuff? Okay, ready, set, go.
So you can check me out at albertbermonte.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn under Albert Bermonte. And my Instagram is at Dr. Albert Monte. Also check out my book, Rise Above the Script, Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists, which also has a lot of information for entrepreneurs and business owners. So check that book out. It's available in audiobook, ebook, and paperback. Again, thank you so much for having me on.
All right. You're very welcome, Albert. And if you want to check out that book, it will be in the show notes when this goes out. So we'll help you there, Albert. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Undiscovered Entrepreneur. This has been a real treat. Thank you so much. You've actually reaffirmed a lot of what I talk about in my podcast without me having to tell you what I do. So that's amazing.
Well, thank you. I'm really glad to be here.
All right. All right, Scuba Believers, make sure you stay tuned for the wrap up. Okay, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, Scuba Believers, that was Albert. What a great conversation. I love talking to Albert. I love putting something a little bit different out there for you every once in a while. When I think of entrepreneurs, I don't always think about actors or musicians or anything like that. But if you really get down to it and think about it hard, they are entrepreneurs too. They sell themselves and their talents. But in the whole conversation, I do have a couple takeaways, as usual. Imperfect action beats perfect inaction. Albert spent 6 years paralyzed by perfectionism while writing his book until a mentor told him to just write and self-edit later, proving that taking a messy step forward trumps waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. And it never comes. If we always wait for that one thing to be right, just like I said in the podcast, it's never going to happen because we're always going to be waiting. And it turns into self-procrastination. It turns into just not working. We have to be able to take that first step forward and realize that we can do something. We can make progress. You can make progress if you just get across the start line. Fear is your compass pointing towards growth. When Albert feared announcing his business split, he discovered he really was not even 1/10 of what he imagined, showing that our biggest fears often guard our most important breakthroughs, and the other side holds something transformative. And that's why we run towards fear instead of away from fear, because we know on the other side of that fear is something that's going to change our lives, something that's going to be amazing, but we have to get over that fear and to know what's going to be on the other side. With that, I want to say thank you very much for another fantastic episode. And just a real quick word, I have not been giving updates. I'm moving my updates to Facebook. Look up Jesse Blount, and it has my podcast cover there on Facebook. I will be making reels to update you on new and exciting things that are happening to me and a couple other things too. So look for me there. All right, School Believers, thanks a lot. Have a good evening. Bye-bye. And there you have it, future entrepreneurs. We've taken another step towards our journey to get across that start line. Remember, every great business starts with a single idea and the courage to pursue it. You've already shown that courage by joining us here today. As we wrap up this episode of The Undiscovered Entrepreneur, I want to remind you that the start line isn't as far away as you might think. With each bit of knowledge you gain, each fear you face, you're getting closer to launching your dream. Until our next episode together, keep pushing, keep dreaming, and most importantly, keep taking those steps across the start line. They'll all add up to big strides in your entrepreneur adventure. This is Scoob, your guide across the start line. Remember, your future is waiting. I can, I am, I will, and I'm doing it today. Hello, Scoob Believers. Let me ask you a real quick question. How many cups of coffee have you had today? 3, 5, 7? And let me guess, you've got a Red Bull in the other hand just in case, right? Yeah, I see you. Now, here's the truth bomb nobody wants to hear. You're not building a business. You're building a caffeine dependency. Listen, I get it. When you're grinding 12, 14, 16-hour days, you're building something from nothing. When you've got payroll to meet, investors to impress, and visions that won't wait. You need fuel. But what if I told you that the fuel that you're using is actually slowing you down? What if the very thing that you think is keeping you sharp is actually making you dull? Enter Rise Coffee. This isn't your grandma's mushroom tea. This isn't some hippie wellness trend. This is science meets performance. And here's what makes Rise different. Less than half the caffeine of a regular cup of coffee. But here's the kicker. You won't miss it. 6 organic powerhouse mushrooms, including cordyceps, what Olympic athletes use, and lion's mane, what Silicon Valley biohackers swear by. Sustained energy that doesn't spike and crash. We're talking smooth, clean power from morning to moonlight. Crystal clear focus without the jitters. Imagine closing the deal with calm, confident mind instead of the caffeine chaos. Gut health and immune support, because what's the point of building an empire if you're too sick to enjoy it? So here's the challenge to you. Stop borrowing energy from tomorrow. Stop running on fumes and call it a hustle. Stop wearing your caffeine addiction like a badge of honor. Real entrepreneurs optimize, real entrepreneurs adapt, real entrepreneurs win. You can't win if you're crashing at 2 p.m. while your competition is just getting started. Break the cycle. Head to risesuperfoods.com right now and use code PODNA15 for 50% off your first order. That's PODNA15 for 15% off. Try it for 30 days. If you don't feel the difference, if you don't feel sharper, calmer, more focused, more alive, then go back to your 6-a-day cup habit. But I'm telling you, we won't, because once you feel what real energy feels like, you'll never go back. Ditch the addiction, fuel your empire, and rise up. Rise Coffee, energy that builds, not burns.